Welcome to Kinesiology 4330 Family Health. My name is Anthony Salafia and I am the instructor for this course. There are several other instructors that also teach various other sections of family health, and I have met and communicated with them to regularly ensure that the objectives of this course are being met throughout the different sections and instructors. We all teach the same course according to our strengths, interests, and backgrounds, and it fulfills the general education requirement related to health and wellness. In this video, we are going to go over your course syllabus, the assignments, and due dates and times. As I mentioned, my name is Anthony Salafia, and my full-time job is a physical therapist. My background is in physical education and kinesiology. I consider myself a lifelong learner, and I fully expect to gain as much from all of you as you will from the course. There's an old Native American saying that goes, "Tell me and I'll forget. Show me and I may not remember. Involve me, though, and I will understand." And this is the approach to learning that we will take in this course. From individual presentations to written assignments, as well as classroom discussions, I hope this course challenges you to examine your thoughts on the family. I've had the privilege of attending some great schools that have prepared me for my profession as a physical therapist and my passion, which is teaching. I started out at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, where I studied kinesiology. San Luis Obispo is a beautiful area, but a tough place if you're not a quarter system learner. I've always found that the semester system provided me a much more conducive learning style for me to succeed. I also feel that the health and medical professions need the time and depth of teaching that a longer semester system provides. I then went on to physical therapy school at Damon College in Amherst, New York, which is just outside of Buffalo. And while I was there, the Buffalo Bills went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost all of them, which is why Bill stands for Boy, I Love Losing Super Bowls. It really is one of the prettiest areas of the country, and I encourage any of you to get up to see Niagara Falls in both the United States and Canada. And it's a great place to bike and camp in the summer. I've been blessed with a great family that keeps me very busy and humble. I have 3 daughters that are getting older now, but I've enjoyed every stage of their development into young adulthood. I've enjoyed coaching them in sports and helping them through their various school projects and activities, and just generally navigating through life. In the upper right corner is my dad's 1939 Ford convertible coupe, which is the last year they made it a car with a rumble seat. Now, in terms of our course syllabus, your syllabus has been posted in Blackboard, and you are responsible for knowing the course requirements, projects, test guidelines, and the course description and mission. I strongly suggest that you start calendaring your due dates for your assignments now. It's important to go over the syllabus from page to page, and feel free to contact me if you are unclear about any aspect of the syllabus. Under Blackboard assignments, you will have a syllabus quiz which is worth up to 25 points. You can attempt this multiple times or until you attain the full 25 points by the due date and time. Knowing the syllabus content is your responsibility, and this quiz will help you become acquainted with some important aspects of the syllabus. And again, be sure to calendar your due dates on your syllabus for the semester. There will also be a survey to be taken on family health. You get 25 points just for completing or attempting this. There's no right or wrong answers, just information about yourself, so we have an idea a little bit about the class demographics. It's confidential, it's even anonymous to the instructor as well as your classmates, and the due date is listed on your syllabus. In terms of study requirements, there's a general rule for all academic coursework in the university setting, and you will see similar requirements at universities throughout the country. Some of you may require more time to produce the work and perform at a level that will provide for a successful completion of this course. This applies for each week of the semester, and not just when there is an assignment due or upcoming examinations. Therefore, you can expect to spend about 6 hours a week working on this class outside of the class meeting. Attendance and participation is crucial to attaining a good grade, and there will be material that you will be responsible for knowing covered in the class that may not be available outside of class. Arriving late, leaving early, or A complete absence may result in not hearing important information. It's not the instructor's responsibility to notify the students of what was covered in their absence. Lecture slide notes and supplemental material will be posted under Blackboard Documents and Content. I have found that successful students develop consistent study patterns that don't fluctuate from week to week. Cramming for examinations and assignments done in haste have been proven to be ineffective and are reflected in poor grades. In regards to your written assignments, the general format is for all of them to be typewritten, 12 font, double spaced, and proofread for spelling, grammar, and sentence structure. It's very important that you review the work that you turn in and make sure that it's proofread. Blackboard assignments is the submission of your assignments that is preferred. You want to label your assignments the following way, as you see here: Kinesiology 4330, your last name, first name, and the assignment name. Hard copies are acceptable, but they are not preferred. It is preferred that you do submit your assignment under Blackboard assignments under either a .doc Word document or in a PDF format. Other formats need to be converted to a .doc Word document or a PDF prior to submitting under Blackboard. Other formats are not often compatible with Blackboard, and you may encounter difficulty submitting those assignments, and I often have trouble opening those assignments unless they're in a Word or PDF format. Most of your written assignments will have this component that goes on a separate page, which is a multiple choice question or a true-false question. What the purpose of this is for you to construct questions that emphasize key points that the reader of your paper should know about your paper. This is a tool that I've used in graduate school and is very effective in being able to help the reader to know what the important key concepts are of the paper. Minutia and minor details are not as important as the key points of each paper. Written communication must reflect academic excellence. That includes your emails to the instructor and as well as any other messages or forms of correspondence. The Writing Center at Stanislaus State University is located at room L112 of the library. It provides essay writing tips. You want to use the resources that you're paying for, including tutoring. And I have benefited from using tutors at the various campuses and programs that I've been in, including graduate school. And it really is very helpful if you're having difficulty with some of your writing. Here's a video on the Writing Center at California State University, Stanislaus.
Writing and Tutoring Center here at CSU Stanislaus is a free academic resource for all enrolled students. We provide writing and tutoring services for all classes on campus.
As a student here at CSU Stanislaus, I have benefited greatly from the tutoring services here at the Tutoring Center. I have been tutored in chemistry, biology, and English. My tutor has provided me with study skills and practice problems, as well as any questions that I have to ask that were not answered in class. The Tutoring Center offers one-on-one tutoring as well as walk-ins. Our most popular are math walk-ins and chem walk-ins, and we also have the writing walk-ins. If you're interested in becoming a tutor, you can come into the Tutoring Center. All you need is to have an A or B in the class, and then you go through the whole application process as well as the hiring process.
The Writing Center and the Tutoring Center are the place to come and make sure you get all the preparation and help you take a step.
Our text is Sociology of the Family by Ron J. Hammond and Paul Cheney, who are both PhDs from Utah Valley University. We will pretty much go over the text in its entirety, and there are many interesting sections on how the family unit is studied and how statistics are gathered and interpreted. Various cultures, traditions, and stages of life will be explored and investigated on its impact on culture and society. This text is available for free for all the students at the web address that's listed on this slide at freebooks.uvu.edu/sociology 1200. It's a very readable text, and along with the lecture slides and notes in class, and our guest speakers. You will be responsible for the material and the assigned readings. Here we have our table of contents for our text, Sociology of the Family. In yellow, you can see the chapters that we will be covering in class. Chapters 11 and 16 won't be covered in class. There is a lot of reading material, but it's very readable text. It's not a lot of jargon or a lot of information that is hard to understand. And I think you'll find it very useful for the information, as well as the information that we have in our documents and content in Blackboard. Be sure to calendar the due dates and the information in your syllabus to keep up with the assigned reading. One of our papers that we're going to be doing is our individual sexuality project. It's an overview of this model that we see here on our individual sexuality, who and what cultural forces, psychological, social, and biological forces were interacting to influence your individual sexuality. It's a 3-page minimum, 5-page maximum. As you can see here, there are many things that go into who we are as individual people in our sexuality: family, peers, culture, legal systems, medical professionals, teachers, media, associates, religion, your sex partners. And this paper is worth 100 points. We will have guest speakers on various topics, including sexually transmitted diseases and infections, pregnancy and prenatal development, healthy relationships, and the adoption process. These speakers are experts in their field, and there's a couple that will be coming in to discuss their adoption process. The pregnancy and prenatal development discussion has a neonatal ICU nurse with over 30 years of experience, as well as experts in the field of healthy relationships and STDs and STIs. These will be on 4 separate nights, and you won't want to miss and be on time and ready to participate with these guest speakers in their fields. Our healthy relationships topic paper will be 75 points. What's your idea of a healthy relationship? What does it mean to you to love someone? What does it mean to you to be loved? And what roles do communication play in relationships? And this will also be based upon the presentation that we have on healthy relationships. We are going to be having 2 topic papers that include a brief oral synopsis or an oral presentation that takes 5 to 7 minutes. That's going to be an overview of your paper. The 2 topics are going to be on financial awareness, where you'll be discussing your personal budget or a topic, and end-of-life issues, where you're going to be discussing with a family member what their end-of-life wishes are, such as their advanced direct. These are both worth 125 points. You'll be coming up with 2 multiple choice questions or true-false questions if it's a topic. If it's on the personal issue of your personal budget or a discussion that you have with a family member on death and dying, you don't have to come up with the questions on those. What is an oral synopsis? An oral synopsis, the 2 assignments at the end of the semester, including financial awareness and end-of-life discussions, there will be a 5 to 7 minute oral presentation. You want to practice it, be succinct and organized. You can use a PowerPoint or Prezi type of projection presentation, or props, or just give a straight oral presentation, are all acceptable ways of communicating your paper project to the class. In terms of things to do, there is a historical formula to doing well in this class, or most any class that you take here at Stanislaus State University. First of all, attend class. You're paying for it, and you should get what you pay for. Read the textbook. I test to the text and its contents. Read it carefully. I don't seek out minute details, but rather key points and concepts that are real take-home points, as well as some important facts and figures. I'm available, I'm attentive, and I respond to my questions and inquiries. I don't text, but I answer all my emails within 48 hours, and I'm more than happy to meet and discuss the class content with you. Don't expect a response 5 minutes after you've contacted me, and when it comes to scheduled tests and assignments, failure to plan on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. Put in a strong effort, participate, and turn in quality work, and you'll typically earn a good grade. C is an average grade, B is a good grade, and A is an outstanding grade. There are things to avoid in this class. Getting behind on the reading and the assignments is not good. The best thing to do about getting behind is not to get there in the first place. Most of what is required in this class regarding writing and your overall work product is no different than how you may have been graded in a high school or general education college level English course. Proofread your work for grammar and spelling, make sure your papers answer the objectives of the assignment, and you'll be responsible for all that is covered in the lecture slides and the assigned reading material from your syllabus, and it could all end up as covered material on your examinations. And remember, academic honesty at all times, turn in your work only. So what encompasses family health? We're going to go ahead and get started on the course here, and from the title alone it is clear to see that this course covers a wide range of topics. Our syllabus covers these areas, including a discussion of the family health unit in today's multicultural society, identifying relationship options in today's diverse society, reviewing personal qualifications for marriage, discussing sexually transmitted diseases, identifying personal family options, discussing prenatal care, pregnancy, and childbirth, identifying common childhood illnesses and diseases, reviewing family life materials to help children learn about their bodies, discussing common home accidents, reviewing global health care policies and needs in family, and identifying common problems in older family members, particularly end-of-life issues. There are 6 basic functions of the family as described in Chapter 1 of our text. Economic support, including food, shelter, etc. Emotional support, such as intimacy and companionship and belonging. Socialization of children, such as raising children and parenting. Control of sexuality, it defines and controls when and with whom. Control of reproduction defines the types of relationships and where children should be born. And ascribe status within the context of race, socioeconomic status, religion, and kinship. There are typical qualities of a strong family, such as commitment. The family is very important to each member interpersonally, and sexual fidelity and trust are core essentials. Appreciation. Care is given and shared with one another. The home is a positive place. Communication. Family members spend time listening to one another and enjoying each other's company. Quality time spent together, doing things together, and often activities that don't have to cost money. Spiritual wellness. The family promotes sharing, love, and compassion for other human beings. Coping with stress and crisis, and when faced with death, illness, and marital conflict and other crises, family members pull together, seek help, and use other coping strategies to meet the challenges. The 5 main components of a healthy family in a multicultural society include being relevant to society, adaptable, open, communication, and resolution. These changes will inevitably come, and you need to be open to listening to others and their points of view. In terms of relationship options, there's many different types of marriages, as we know today in society, including cohabitation, immediate families, extended families, the roles of families, and the circles of influence that affect us in our relationships. We will have an overview of sexually transmitted diseases and infections that are prevalent in the world and here locally, the risk factors and behaviors that can lead to sexually transmitted infections, and the signs and symptoms associated with these conditions. Outside speakers with expertise in these areas will provide information and interactive learning tools to help understand what risks and consequences are and the means of prevention of these infections. In terms of family planning, we will have an opportunity to hear from several members of our community who have been through the adoption process and have cared for children in the foster care program. They will discuss their motivation, the challenges they've encountered, and give you all an opportunity to learn from their experiences. It's going to be a very rich night and opportunity to really discuss what goes into this process of adoption. The Turlock Health and Pregnancy Center will be presenting on various stages of childbirth and various birth approaches and the risk factors involved. In terms of marriage, a lot goes into a successful marriage, and it is the classic work in progress. We will explore the institutions of marriage in various cultures and why it is valued and at the same time devalued by our culture. Definitions and the right to marry will be reviewed in lieu of our recent landmark court cases. More importantly, from a micro level, we will look at how compatibility, expectations, interests, attractions, and goals play a tremendous part in how we determine if our partner is quote-unquote marriage material. Childhood illnesses and conditions. Some illnesses like chickenpox are a rite of passage in our youth. Other illnesses and conditions such as ADHD and autism are less understood but are being researched heavily to determine the causes and to develop treatments. Some conditions affect certain genders more than others, such as scoliosis and patellar dislocations in adolescent girls, or speech and language delays being more prevalent in boys. Nutrition or malnutrition has a tremendous impact on physical and mental development during our growing years, and socialization and environment have an impact throughout our lives. Our older family members. The way we treat our elderly family members and those in society will be studied. Their role and their decisions to participate in daily work life or our families play an important part in how we interact within our home. It is a growing part of our population, and we will all be subject to it one day ourselves. In terms of culture, the Western culture has a tendency to diminish the role and societal importance of the elderly. Other cultures, for instance Asian cultures, exercise a deep-seated respect and position for the elderly called filial piety, where patriarchs and matriarchs remain key influencers in the overall decisions of the family. As these older family members get less involved in society and health decline develops, adult children who are raising their own children are now having to spend an equal amount of time caring for their elderly parents. This is what has become widely known as the sandwich generation, and it impacts all members of the family. Children grow and realize various milestones that typically, but don't always, correspond with their chronological age. Nutrition is an important factor at all stages of life with children and can play a significant role in their development. In cases of poor nutrition, the onset of obesity and juvenile onset diabetes can be a health problem that affects them into adulthood. Growing up in a nurturing versus an abusive environment can impact their emotional well-being. How children interact with others in their family and the authority figures that they have, as well as peers and their response to these interactions, will play an integral role in their relationships now and in the future. Whether it be infancy, toddler, child, pre-adolescent, adolescent, or young adult children, they will demonstrate different needs, aptitudes, and developmental milestones as they progress toward adulthood. Our text discusses the different definitions of the family. The nuclear family is a family group consisting of the mother and father and their children. The blended family is the family created by remarriage, including step-siblings and parents. And the extended family, including one's relatives beyond the nuclear and blended families, such as your cousins, aunts, uncles, and grandparents or great-grandparents. A growing and prevalent part of the family definition includes step families or blended families. This is an inevitable result of the marriage and divorce rate, and we will examine the dynamics of remarriage later in the semester. Now we'll discuss some of the different types of status that we find in Chapter 1 of our text. Ascribed status is present at birth, such as your race, your sex, or your class of person, depending upon the culture that you're in. Examples can be as obvious as royalty or even unwritten ascribed status that can be present in a culture based upon your family background, where you came from, or what relatives you are associated with. Achieved status is considered more important in our modern cultures and societies, and it's attained through one's choices and efforts, such as a college student, a movie star, a teacher, or an achieving athlete. Role strain is the burden one feels within any given role. When your role comes in direct conflict with other roles, you might experience this type of role strain. Role conflict, on the other hand, is when your burdens and your expectations of one role compete with the expectations of another role. Classic case being the working parent trying to take on the roles of parenting and their career at the same time. How to get that balance is a very important key to a successful family life as well as career life. So we will see here there are different types of groups that we are a part of. Our primary and secondary groups. Our primary groups, which tend to be smaller, less formal, and more intimate, such as you and your family members and friends, and secondary groups, which tend to be larger, more formal, and less personal, such as you and your doctor, your mechanic, or your accountant. Typically with your primary groups, say with your family, you can be as much more spontaneous and informal than you can on secondary groups. On Friday night, you can hang out wherever you want, change your plans that you want to do, and experience as much fun as you want. And contrast that with the relationship with your doctor, that you have to get an appointment, wait to see if the doctor's running behind, and address them as doctor. And then once the diagnosis and co-payment are made, you have to make another formal appointment if you need to have another visit. Your family and friends tend to be fewer in numbers and primary in nature, and don't require this type of conflicted approach to a relationship. Culture is the shared values, norms, symbols, and language and objects in the way of life that is passed on from one generation to the next. Culture is what we learn from our families, friends, peers, parents, and schools. It is shared, not biologically determined. In other words, you were only born with drives and not culture. Most families in a society have similar family cultural traits. In terms of some negative terminology, ethnocentrism is the tendency to judge others based upon our own experiences. And in this perspective, our culture is right while other cultures that differ from us are wrong. Cultural relativism, which is the tendency to look for the cultural context and in which differences in cultures occur. So in terms of the sociological imagination, C. Wright Mills, who's covered in chapter 1, identified troubles or challenges on the personal levels and issues such as challenges on the larger social level as key principles for wrapping our minds around many of the hidden social processes that transpire in an almost invisible manner in today's society. So let's take a look at this figure on the slide to see the diagram of the sociological imagination and its two levels, which are personal and larger social. So personal troubles are private problems experienced within a character of the individual and the range of their immediate relationship to one another. Mills identified the fact that we function in our personal lives as actors and actresses who make choices about our friends, family, groups, work, school, and other issues within our control. We have a degree of influence in the outcome of the matters within a personal level. A college student who parties 4 nights out of 7 and rarely attends class and who never does his homework has a personal trouble that interferes with his odds of success in college. But when 50% of all college students in the country never graduate, we call it a larger social issue. So larger social issues lie beyond one's personal control and the range of one's inner life. These pertain to society's organizations and processes. Mills taught that we live much of our lives on the personal level, and much of society happens at the larger social level. Without a knowledge of the larger social and personal levels of personal experience and social experience, we live in what Mills calls a false social conscience, which is an ignorance of the social facts and the larger social picture. There's a lot there, and I would suggest you go back into chapter 1 of our text and look further into the sociological imagination by C. Wright Mills. We're going to be looking at some of the scientific research involved with family roles and positions and responsibilities and how these definitions have changed over time. In demographics, we can study various cohorts or groups of people who have characteristics such as their birth dates that can be studied and compared. We hear very much today about the millennials as they are starting to be studied more. There's also a cohort of a group born between 1946 and 1964 represents a never before and never repeated high period of birth rates that yielded about 70 million baby boomers. These were people born after World War II and into the mid-60s. Demography is the scientific study of population growth and change that provides basic categorical information about the respondents, including their age, sex, race, education level, marital status, birth date, birthplace, income, etc. This is what we try to build trends in our statistical information. So primary socialization includes all the ways a newborn is molded into the social being that they are and capable of interacting in and meeting the expectations of society. Most primary socialization is facilitated by the family, friends, daycare, and to a certain various forms of media. Adult socialization occurs when we assume adult roles such as wife, husband, employee, etc. We adapt new roles that meet our needs and wants throughout adult life. There's also secondary socialization, which are those factors that we take in as we enter school, and our family becomes secondary influencers compared to our classmates, our teachers, and those other influences that have an impact on who we are as a person. Statistically, we want to look at the ability to study, observe without distortion, bias, or especially personal bias, and that is called objectivity. Judges, referees, and other officials need to be able to sift through information without being influenced, biased, or coerced into an unobjective decision. Objectivity is the ability to study and observe without distortion or bias, especially personal bias, and this is what our courts and even professional sports strive to achieve. In our court system, if you are considered to be in a situation with your family or acquaintances and friends, that could place you in a potential conflict of interest, and you will likely be dismissed from consideration in being part of the jury due to a potential compromise in your ability to be objective and without bias, often called the conflict of interest. Survey research, which is the primary form of research in sociological studies. Components of a good survey include a clear purpose for taking the survey, a clear understanding of the desired outcomes of the survey, good research supporting the development and design of the survey, appropriate sampling techniques when collecting survey information, reliability and validity in the survey and its questions and design, and clear and accurate presentation of the survey findings that are appropriate for the type of survey used. Surveys are research instruments designed to obtain information from individuals who belong to a larger group, organization, or society. The information is gathered and used to describe, explain, and at times predict attitudes, behaviors, aspirations, types of survey questions that we will often see. They can be delivered in various ways. The two most basic types of questions are open survey questions, where those answering the questions of the survey do so in their own words, or closed survey questions, which is where the respondent answers from a specific list of choices and is limited to these choices alone. These are relatively simple to administer and require written consent of the respondent. Since no actual experimentation is being done on the respondents, approval for these types of survey studies typically goes very smoothly. A Likert scale, which are the most common types of response scales used in surveys and questionnaires. These questions are like statements that respondents are asked to agree or disagree, and with a statement that invokes an opinion with varying levels of agreement or disagreement. Data is discussed in Chapter 2. There are different types of data: nominal, ordinal, and ratio data that we will cover. Nominal is based on the name of something, such as a species, and data that have no standard numerical values, and this is often referred to as categorical data. Dependent variables are survey variables that change in response to the influence of the independent variables. Measures of central tendency, we will see these type of math terms all the time in statistics, including the mean, which is the sum of the numbers divided by the number of students. In other words, it's a mathematical average. The median is the exact midpoint value in the ranked list of scores, and the mode is the number of responses that occurs the most in a given list of numbers that have been collected. Correlations are covered in Chapter 2. Direct correlations mean that the variables change in the same direction. Inverse means the variables change in opposite directions, and a spurious correlation is a relationship between two variables that indicates their relationship to a third variable, but not to each other. First question is, the family created by remarriage, including step siblings and parents, is extended partridge family, nuclear family, or blended family? And the answer is blended family. The exact midpoint value in a ranked list of scores is called the mean, mode, median, or average. And the answer is median. The ability to study and observe without distortion or bias, especially personal bias, is known as objectivity. The shared values, norms, symbols, language, objects, and the way of life that is passed on from one generation to the next is known as culture. The types of status which is present at birth is called scribe status. You didn't have to earn it, you were born into it. The tendency to judge others based upon our own experiences is a term that we should all know for this course, and it is ethnocentrism. Data shown in comparison to other data is known as ratio data. The scientific study of population growth and change is known as demography. A survey where the respondents answer from a given list of choices is called a closed survey question. A group of people who have some demographic characteristics typically associated with their birth group, years, or group of years is called a cohort, category, niche, or generation. And the answer is it's a cohort. So next week, be sure to log on to Blackboard assignments for the course and do your survey on your family background. Just by doing the survey, which just takes a few minutes, it's completely anonymous. Even the instructor does not know who's filling this out. Just give us a chance. It gives us a chance to learn more about the makeup of our classroom and the students in it. And again, it's done completely anonymously. And just for completing it, you get 25 points. Make sure you know your syllabus quiz, which is 25 points. Read chapters 1 and 2 from tonight, and read chapters 4, 5, and 6 for next week. And that concludes our first class meeting for Kinesiology 4330 Family Health. I look forward to meeting you all next week in class.